From now until midsummer, some people know this time as swarm season. No, we don't mean when hordes of tourists swarm to the beach. What we're talking about is a different kind of swarm.
Swarm season is when bee colonies naturally divide, and that's when you'll see a huge cloud of bees in the air, or when they hang in a big cluster off a tree branch or the eave of your house. And that's when our phone would ring all the time with people calling with swarms in their yards. And so that was fun.
Meet Meredith May, award-winning journalist and author of The Honey Bus, a memoir of loss, courage, and a girl saved by bees.
We would have to drop everything and hop in the truck and race to go get them because they don't hang that long in between homes. A swarm is on its way to a new home that it's discovered. So you have to catch them in time. So it looks really dramatic, but it's actually a really safe time to handle bees. You have to bring an empty hive box, and you have to reach the swarm either by a ladder, or sometimes when you're lucky, it's within reach. And you can just saw the branch off or shake the bees into the box. The trick is you've got to get the queen, because once you have the queen, all the bees will come to her. And the reason they're easy to handle at that time is because they've eaten a lot of honey in preparation for their trip, so they're very full and lethargic, and they're less likely to sting you.
May was a little girl at the time, living in Big Sur, California, with her grandmother and grandpa, who was a fourth-generation beekeeper.
I was 4, my little brother was 2. We lived in Rhode Island because my dad was in the Navy. My mom is very volatile. I remember a lot of dishware flying in the house. So it was after one of these big fights, shortly thereafter, I was on a plane. And when the plane landed, we were in California, and we being my mother, my brother, and I. My dad stayed behind. We moved in with my grandparents, and the 3 of us moved in my mother's childhood bedroom. And that's where we were for pretty much the next decade. That was our living arrangement.
Her mother spiraled into major depression and basically didn't get out of bed for the next several years. May draws many parallels to her life as a child and the behavior of bees.
When the queen leaves, the bees become visibly anxious. Like within 10 or 15 minutes, they'll start to smell the queen pheromone is gone. And they'll get really visibly agitated, and you can see it. They look like they're itchy, and they shake, and they run around. They're actually looking for her. So hives have personalities, and they also have moods, and you can sense this and see this. So, for example, I can open a hive that was comfortable, humming along, not aggressive 1 week, and then the next week I open it and it's totally different, and I can say, I think they lost their queen just by the way that they're behaving.
Though she and her brother ran wild and got into plenty of trouble, the world of beekeeping mesmerized May from the moment she first arrived at her grandparents' home.
The honey bus is an old World War II army bus, and it's green, and it's rusting from the rain, and there's no engine in it. And it's permanently marooned in Grandpa's backyard. And that's his honey house. He gutted it. He took all the seats out and he put his honey factory inside. That's where he bottles honey. And it was kept locked to keep little hands out of it. And I was just fascinated by it. I wanted to see what it was like in there. Grandpa would work in there at night, or really all day into the night, and his friends would join him from Big Sur, and I would sit in the weeds and kind of watch them laughing and making honey and drinking beer. And it held like this Willy Wonka fascination over me. I wanted to see what was going on in there.
You've probably seen beehives while driving in the country. They're those stacks of white boxes standing in a field or under trees. One stack is one colony, and each colony has one queen. A beekeeper inspects beehive frames to make sure the queen is healthy. May says she's easy to spot because all the worker bees huddle around her like petals on a daisy.
Bees have various jobs inside the hive, but all the jobs are done by female worker bees. The male drones don't do anything. Their job is just to mate occasionally. So what you're looking at are female bees keeping a protective circle around her. It's kind of like parting the crowds for a rock star. So they're just making sure she can walk around and find a place to lay an egg, and they feed her and bring her water. She can't feed herself, so they make sure she can eat, and they keep her warm at night. They cuddle her. In a beehive, it holds 8 frames per box, and the 2 bottom boxes are bigger. That's where the nursery is. That's where the queen lays eggs. So she's going to be in one of the 2 bottom boxes. I know at least that much. So I have 16 frames to look at to find her. The boxes above the nursery are a little shorter, and those are called honey supers, and that's where their pantry is. That's where they store their honey.
May learned many life lessons from bees, like what unconditional parental love and generosity look like.
One time we were beekeeping and it started to rain, and we had one of those nursery frames in our hand. It was honeycomb with eggs inside the honeycomb. All of a sudden, all the nurse bees, whose job it is to feed the babies, all of them lined up, all facing the same direction, and they interlocked their wings. And it looked like a corn cob. And they were protecting the eggs from the rain. And their wings were connected like Spanish roof tiles. It was the most amazing thing. Like, how did they communicate that to each other? How did they do it so quickly when our eyes were off of them for a second? And that they put themselves in harm's way for the babies, I think, was a beautiful thing for me to see. It's the exact opposite of a dysfunctional family. That's why I loved it as a kid.
Tragically, today's industrial, large-scale beekeeping creates dysfunctional, stressed-out bees. Besides pesticides, May believes it's another reason bees are in big trouble.
People who have thousands and thousands and thousands of hives put them on semi-trailers and truck them around the country following the bloom at major orchards. And it's stressful for the bees to be constantly moving, because each time they're put in a new farm, they have to reorient and figure out where they are. And then they're forced to pollinate a monocrop. So imagine you or I having to eat a hot dog every day for a month, and then having to eat a hamburger every day for a month. Well, we'd get sick too.
May's grandfather sought to be of service to the bees, to provide a sanctuary for them, and to only take their honey when there was a surplus.
If you treat them well, you will get a bountiful surplus, because bees have OCD. They work so hard. But one of the criticisms my grandfather had of industrial large-scale beekeeping that I share is that man has this propensity to take nature and force it to work for him or her. And when you do that, you destroy the thing that's bringing you joy and money, and it never works out well in the end.
There are many books on the market about how to raise bees. May wanted to write something different.
Obviously, we can't lose our bees when they pollinate a third of the food grown on the planet. I mean, people understand that. And I didn't really want to repeat that conversation, but what I wanted to talk about was the moral necessity of bees. Their social structure, the way they care for one another, has not changed over the last 100 million years, so they must be doing something right. They're a perfect democratic society. They take everybody's input and then they make a group decision, and the group decision is for the betterment of the whole, and they thrive by each doing a little tiny bit of contribution and work.
As a fifth-generation beekeeper, May cares for the progeny of her grandfather's bees. You can read more about life lessons from bees in her book, The Honey Bus, a memoir of loss, courage, and a girl saved by bees, available now. And you can learn more about all of our guests by visiting our website at viewpointsonline.net. Our writer-producer for this segment is Polly Hansen. Studio production by Jason Dickey. Executive producer is Reed Pence. I'm Marty Peterson.
Viewpoints returns in just a moment.
May is American Stroke Month, and while not all strokes can be prevented, up to 80%, including recurrent strokes, may be, with a few changes, like not smoking, eating healthfully, being physically active, and maintaining a healthy weight. People who've survived one stroke are at a higher risk of having another, according to Dr. Mitchell Elkind of Columbia University.
About 1 in every 4 stroke survivors will have another one. The best way to reduce your stroke risk is to live a healthy lifestyle and work with your doctor on a prevention plan. Also, ask your doctor if a daily aspirin or other medications for secondary stroke prevention are right for you.
More than 116 million people in the U.S. have high blood pressure, and fewer than half have it under control, putting them at increased stroke risk. Nothing causes more strokes than uncontrolled high blood pressure. Learn more at strokeassociation.org/stroke month.
Heading into summer, McDonald's and its independent franchisees have aspirations to hire roughly 250,000 people, among them workers age 50 and above, through a first-of-its-kind collaboration with AARP and AARP Foundation. McDonald's job postings will be featured on AARP's job board, and the company will work with AARP Foundation on a pilot program to align employer and candidate needs and interests. Melissa Kersey is McDonald's U.S. Chief People Officer.
McDonald's restaurants are where people at every stage of working life can grow and thrive in a flexible environment. With 5 generations now working together, we expect this collaboration will continue to build the diverse and inclusive workforce McDonald's is known for and proud of.
McDonald's Archways to Opportunity program also provides eligible employees with tuition assistance and a variety of education and career advising opportunities. No matter your age, learn more at mcdonalds.com/careers.
And that's Viewpoints for this week. Viewpoints is a production of MediaTrax Communications. You can follow us on Twitter and Facebook to learn about upcoming shows and find a library of past programs on iTunes. Plus, you'll always find podcasts of our segments and information about our guests at viewpointsonline.net. Join us again next week for your public affairs magazine, Viewpoints.